Okay, wait. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Global Millennial MUN School 2021. So I will be moderating the session as well as the speaker. I will be the speaker of today's session, which we will talk about the fundamentals of Model UN, and we will also talk about everything related to Model United Nations. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am, because even though I haven't been in an MUN conference since long time ago, I hope everything that I will give to you are still relevant. Okay, I will start my share screen. Wait. Okay, I'm gonna use the new feature from Zoom in which I will be inside the presentation, which is quite cool. Okay, wait. Wait. Okay, I'm finding the file. Where's the file? Downloads. Okay, this one. Okay, I hope you guys can see me inside the presentation. Okay, so we will talk about Model United Nations first, but before we talk about Model United Nations, I hope you guys are aware that there is the word model before the phrase United Nations. So as far as I'm concerned, I hope you guys are already aware of what United Nations is. It is an intergovernmental organization, an international organization whose members are countries. So if we're talking about an organization, sometimes we think about, for example, a youth organization near our house, whose members are young people across the neighborhoods. But United Nations is a higher level definition of organization because the members are countries. So the members are Indonesia, the members are United States, etc., etc. And these countries, they form into one organization called United Nations. So what is Model UN? Model UN is a simulation of how UN committee proceedings are conducted. So you're going to simulate what exactly is being talked inside a United Nations committee. But bear in mind that United Nations itself consists of many councils. It consists of many committees which have different procedures of simulation. So if you're talking about legal topics, for example, they have specific procedures for that. If we're talking about human rights, United Nations Committee has its own special council which talks about human rights using special procedures as well. We also have a council inside the United Nations whose mandate is to talk and also to discuss about international peace and security. Perhaps any of you might have heard about United Nations Security Council. It also has a special procedures. So never understand the United Nations as one same thing in any situation, because it really depends on what kind of topic that we're talking about. And it also depends on what kind of council we're talking about. So as you can see in the presentation, MUN offers an opportunity for experiential education. So you're going to exactly simulate how a diplomat will talk, right? You will see how any diplomat inside the United Nations Council can talk in a specific manner. So never imagine United Nations as this kind of Zoom conference where I can talk to you, you can talk back to me in the freest way possible. And in a United Nations simulation, there's going to be a specific procedure. So you cannot just cut someone during their talk, or you cannot just cut someone during their speech, because it will be considered as not diplomatic and it does not represent the characteristic of a diplomat. So we will talk about that, but we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about the fundamentals first. Okay, so you can also see in the presentation that you're going to play the role of diplomats in global committees, commissions, or council, where you represent the interests and policies of a member state or an organization assigned to the delegates. So this is the third thing that you have to know about Model United Nations. Firstly, you did understand that Model United Nations consists of several councils. So if you talk a different topic, then you will have a different procedure as well. Secondly, you also just understood from the previous material that you're representing yourself as a country. And thirdly, as you are representing a country, that means anything that comes outside of your mouth must talk about your country's interests and not your personal interests. So if you don't like, for example, topic A, you don't like it personally, but your country heavily endorses that topic. For example, let's talk about Palestine, for example. Let's talk about Palestine. Indonesia is really, really supportive towards Palestine because Indonesia believes that any kind of colonization anywhere in the world must be abolished, right? It's in our constitution, it's in our opening of constitution, the preambles. If you guys were when you guys were high school students, you did a ceremony every Monday, and then you will hear your friend talking about and also speaking about the constitution every Monday. That is what Indonesia's interest is, which is to protect any country's independence movement. But if you personally think that Indonesia should not be supportive of Palestine, then you cannot talk about that when you're representing Indonesia. Okay, you cannot represent your personal opinion when you're representing a country whose opinion is way different than yours. So if you are United States during Donald Trump era, you will be very, very nationalist, right? But since United States newest president is now Joe Biden, your policy will also definitely change. So you will have to follow your country's interests and not your personal interests. That's the very, very simple way to understand Model UN. Okay, let's go to the next presentation. Definition. So there are councils, there are study guides, position papers, and draft resolution. I'm gonna move myself over here so that I don't block the whole material. Okay, so the first one is council. What is council and what is committee? We understand that United Nations is an organization. But if you see councils or committees inside the United Nations, they are also considered actually an organization. For example, you know, or you might have heard about the World Bank, or you might have heard about the International Monetary Fund. These organizations are under the United Nations itself. So if you think that council or committee is not an organization, then you are wrong because they are still an organization. However, the only difference is that it is a subsystem of the United Nations, but with different interests, different policies, different duties, different responsibilities. For example, in UNHRC, United Nations Human Rights Council, this is a council dedicated specifically to talk about human rights. And then we have UN Women. It talks specifically about women empowerment. We also have UNSC, it talks about Security Council, peace and security everywhere in the world. So every United Nations Council has their own topic, has their own mandate. So we call it mandate. Mandate is what you can do and what you can't do. For example, or let's talk about the role of president, our president, Joko Widodo. President Jokowi is the president of our country, and as the highest chief in the executive branch, Jokowi has all the power to do anything he wants under his mandate, right? But Jokowi, as the highest chief of the executive branch of our government, he cannot do what the legislative and also the judicative version or also judicative function of a government. For example, Jokowi cannot have a function the same way as the People's Representative Council has, or Jokowi cannot settle cases inside of a court because Jokowi is not a judge, he is not a justice. But Jokowi is a president, he has his own mandate and he has to follow the mandates. The same goes with United Nations Council. UNSC, Security Council, cannot talk about UN Women Empowerment topics. And the same goes vice versa. United Nations Human Rights Council should not talk about social or cultural issues because it's not within their mandate. So you have to know that a council is still an organization, only with different topics and different mandates. The second thing in MUN that you have to know is study guide. Study guide is basically us chairs, board of chairs, which are not the participant of the competition, but rather the one leading and moderating the session. So if you are participating as a delegate, then you will have the board of chairs who will guide you and also who will assess your performance. And in order for them to do that, they need to build or create a study guide. It will help you understand how the topic is understood, but most importantly, it will help you understand how you should perform in the council. So a guide means it guides you, right? So if you do not follow the guidance, then you're not doing in the right track. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing is position paper. So before before you enter an MUN conference, you're gonna have to make a position paper. What is a position paper? It is a document that highlights your country's interests before you enter the council and debate in the council. So for countries to understand where you are as a country, are you pro with this topic or are you not pro with this topic? They can only know about that using position paper. At least from the eyes of the chairs, they can understand it from your position paper. So it will be funny if you're not pro with a topic in your position paper, but during the council you're very pro with the topic. It will be misleading. The chair will not understand where your exact position is. So I really encourage for all of you to have the same stance in position paper as well as in the performance later on. But bear in mind that you have to compromise as a country. You cannot be, you cannot be someone who wants everything in your exact expectation, right? As a country, you're going to have to compromise. There's a room for negotiation, right? If you want A, but the other country wants B, then we cannot have both. We have to think for other solution. Oh, I can do C, and this country can do also C. So, okay, let's not vote A, let's not vote B, let's vote for C because it is within the best interests of both of our countries. It can be like that. So position paper can also have a room for negotiation, but that leaves you with the research. You have to research about the topic and also research about which specific areas where your country can negotiate with other countries. Okay, so this is very important because in the United Nations, in any model UN conference, you don't have to be, well, it's not that you don't have, you must be a country that accepts differences, that accepts different opinions, but at the same time promotes your country first. How do you do that? It can be in any way. It depends on how you research. Okay. The last one is draft resolution. It is the final resolution where every country, where every nation that is present in the council can agree on something before they leave the council. So if you imagine Model UN as a car, for example. Before you leave a car, you have to lock it, right? You have to turn off the machine. The same goes with United Nations simulation. Before you leave the council, you're going to have to make sure that the car, right, the draft resolution is made so that tomorrow or in the next other days, your car will be ready and you don't have to fill in the gas or the tank again because you already made the draft resolution. Okay, might be kind of hard to imagine, but basically you have to have a draft resolution before you leave a council. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next definition. So I hope you guys are quite familiar, but for those who don't, there are at least three characteristics. There are three aspects that you have to know. First is the chair itself. So chair is the one moderating. They're not the participant, right? These three guys at the front that you see on the picture right here. I'm gonna move myself over here. Okay, so these guys, these three guys, well, guys and girls, they are the chairs. They moderate the debate, they moderate the simulation, and then they will also make sure that everything goes hand in hand with the study guide, with the procedures. So if one delegate, for example, does not follow a specific procedure, then the chair can warn that delegate, they can remind that delegate to always follow the procedures. What if the delegates keep on doing that is not on the right track? Then the chair has the right or discretion, sometimes we call it discretion. They have a discretion to not let us in the conference again. So I hope you guys do not do that later. And I hope you guys respect the chair as much as the chair respects you. So that's for chair. Placard is the one that you're holding that contains your country's name. I know it's COVID. I'm not sure whether MUN committees now send placards to your home, but during offline MUN, you're gonna be given the placard where you have to raise your placard so that the chair knows that you want to talk. So it won't matter if you research a lot, right? You learn a lot, you study a lot. but that during the whole session you do not raise your placard, then the chair will not let you talk in the floor. So you have to raise a placard in order for the chair to know that you're going to talk. Okay, the chair is not going to randomly pick delegates just like what a lecturer will do in a class. No, he or she will not do that. They will only pick someone or some delegates who raise their placard. That's the second thing. The third thing is the delegate. Delegate is basically the participant. Why do we use the word delegate? Because someone, as a representative of the country, he or she has the power to voice out their country's opinion, their country's policies, and at some extent, they have the capacity to do anything on behalf, on the name of that country. For example, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the minister has the ability to sign treaties. They have the ability to sign conventions in which Indonesia will be obliged. The document will be legally binding for the whole country to follow. So if, for example, Indonesia signs, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs signs the convention regarding human rights, for example, then the whole country in general, everyone inside our Indonesian lands, they have the obligation to respect the human rights, even though these people do not sign the convention. But Indonesia as a country has delegated, our country has given the delegation capacity to a delegate, in this case, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The same goes with Model UN. If you are a delegate of the United States, then you're the one who's going to represent the United Nations, the United States of America, sorry. So if you do not represent the interests of the United States, then you're doing it wrong. Okay. Okay, Ayu, it's super okay. If any of you cannot join until the very last, super okay. We will record the whole Zoom and then we will upload it in the Google Drive link. Okay, so flow of the debate. So it's going to be super simple, only 5 sessions. The first one is the roll call. So what is the roll call? If I'm not mistaken, the slides will explain each of the procedures. So I will move to the next slide. Okay, I'm right. Okay, so roll call. Roll call, we have 2 different kinds of calls for delegates. So it's either you present or you're present and voting. So what is the difference? If you are present and you're voting, that means when there's a voting procedure, you have to say either yes or either no. You cannot say, I don't want to answer no. You cannot say that if you're present and voting. But if you are present only, you can say either yes, you can say either no, but you can also say, I'm not going to answer that. And it does not mean that you're pro, and it also does not mean that you're contra. It is called abstain. So sometimes delegates choose to abstain when the topic is neutral. It's not really something that they hate, but at the same time, it's not something that they really love. So they choose to abstain. Remember to choose present if you think that your country's policy is not that pro and it's not that contra, but rather in the middle gray area, then you can choose present and then vote to abstain. Okay. I hope you guys understand this. So again, if you take a look at letter A, present means you can abstain, you may abstain in substantial voting. So remember that it is only possible for you not to vote yes or no or abstain only in substantial voting. So what is substantial voting? It is a voting procedure that decides a substantial topic, a topic that is so heavily talking about substance, right? For example, is your country saying yes or no to this topic? That's substantial. Okay. But if it is procedural, then you cannot abstain. So what is the procedural? Procedural is for you when you trying to vote for topics. For example, country A proposes these topics to be discussed. Country B proposes for these topics to be discussed. It's not substantial because it only talks about which topic can go first. It's rather procedural. So your country, even though you're present, you're gonna have to vote yes or no. Okay, you're gonna have to vote, and you're gonna have to pick which proposal that you like the most. You can only abstain in substantial voting. So present voting means you can vote on both substantial and procedural voting. If you do not understand, you can just ask me right away, cut me in the middle, super okay. open your mic and I will answer happily. Or if you want to ask through the Zoom chat box, it's also okay. And we're going to talk about GSL. So what is GSL? General Speakers List. So this is one of the first sessions in a Model UN. So in Model UN, you can talk in any setting that you want. You can talk later, you can talk immediately, or even you want to be the first one to talk. It can be possible. Okay, it's really possible. But in a general speakers list, every country needs to talk because they're going to speak generally about their interest and no specific topic. So this is something that you cannot choose because the chair will choose it for you. If, for example, the chair says that, okay, we're going to have a general speakers list for 10 countries, and that includes Indonesia on the seventh rank, then you cannot leave the general speakers list because you're gonna have to present your topic in the general speakers list. Okay, you can reaffirm your stance. You can also propose solutions. Usually 90 seconds. It could also be 2 minutes depending on the chair's discretion. And the unique part of GSL is that if you are not using the whole time portion, or if you're not using the maximum number of minutes of your speech time, you can yield. So what is yield? Yield is for you to use your remaining time to three situations. The first one is you want to give it to other delegates. For example, Abdur is given 1 minute for the chair to speak, but I only spoke for around 30 seconds. The remaining 30 seconds, I can delegate it to my friend, to my other delegate. And I will do that by saying I will yield the remaining time of my speech to delegate of Malaysia, for example. So Malaysia will have another 30 seconds to speak. But then if it is Malaysia's turn next, then Malaysia will speak again because it is Malaysia's time in the general speakers list. So there are yield time, there are the general speakers list time. Okay. So some of you might question, why would you yield your time to other delegates? Isn't that giving a free floor for other delegates to shine, for example? I would say that could be true, but for you to show teamwork, right? For you to show cooperation, showing that your country is open, showing that your country is open for opinions from other countries, even from countries who are very controversial. It shows just how respectful you are to all countries present in the conference. So that will be a good plus point if you yield it to other delegates. Apart from yielding it to other delegates, you can also yield it to POI. POI is points of information, right? So it is a time where you provide delegates a session to ask yourself. So, for example, again, Abdur is given for 1 minute and I only spoke for 30 seconds. The remaining 30 seconds, I will use it to yield to a question and answer. Sometimes it is called question and answer. Sometimes it is called POI. So when I open it, okay, I will yield. Okay, sorry. The delegate of Abdur will yield the remaining 30 seconds for POI or question and answer. So the chair, if the chair accepts it, then the floor is open. Any delegate present can ask you anything. For example, delegate of Australia raises the placard. Delegate of Abdur, what do you think about solution A in regards to problem B, for example? And then as someone who opens the session, I have to answer the question, right? You cannot just open a question and answer session and then you decide not to answer it. And then I will answer it if there is still a remaining time. For example, there are still 15 seconds. You can yield it again to other delegates who want to question your stance or policies or solution. Okay, so it depends on the remaining time. The last one is yielding it back to the chair. It basically means, okay, I'm not going to talk again, and I'm not going to give it to other delegates. I'm definitely not going to have delegates question me. I'm just going to give it to the chair, which basically means that, okay, you just want 30 seconds and that's it. And it will be the next delegate's turn to speak in the general speakers list. Okay, so those are the three situations where you can yield your time. I hope it's understandable. If it is not, then please ask. I will be very happy to answer. Okay, moving on to do's and don'ts. So remember, the word is general, okay? It's not lecture speakers list. So you're gonna have to be very general, very brief. Just talk about your country stance. Are you yes? Are you no? Are you saying that you're not saying yes or no? Keep it brief, keep it simple, as well as for the background solution, keep it super brief. What you should not do is becoming repetitive to another delegate, which means that you're just trying to saying things that are already said by other delegates. So don't do that. Also, don't speak too long. Not everyone has the time to listen to you, since not everyone's attention is that good. Even for me personally, I can only focus for the first 10 minutes if someone is talking. The remaining 50 minutes, that will be the time for me to sleep, to open my phone, to open another new tab on the laptop. We're talking about kuliah here, gangs. We're talking about a lecture. So don't talk too long because nobody really cares actually, especially when they're not really focusing themselves. Okay. The last one is don't speak to specific because it's against the name of the session, guys. It's general speakers list, not specific general list speakers list. So talk just about general stuff. Okay, are you saying yes, are you saying no, what are the problems? That's it. Don't talk too much details. That's not the good time for that. The good time for that is on the moderated caucus and also unmoderated caucus, which I will explain after this. Okay, wait. Next. Okay, so MC, moderated caucus. So my recommendation for you to understand anything, any phrase that you haven't heard of, is to basically look at the words. There are two words, moderated and caucus. Let's talk about caucus first. Caucus is a session where everyone can give out their opinions and debate and talk as much as they want. Okay, that's a caucus, right? A moderated caucus means that the caucus is limited by procedures, is limited by time, is limited by someone's capability. The word moderate means that someone's controlling something. If you are a moderator in a webinar, for example, that means you have the ability to control speaker's time. If someone is talking too long, you can say, Pa atau Bu, your time is up. Let's move on to the next speaker. That's moderated caucus. You cannot speak as long as you want. You cannot speak as short as you want because there will be time and there will be procedures. Okay. Okay. I'm checking this. Okay. So in terms of moderated caucus, there will be subtopics, right? The keyword is subtopic. So it's going to be specific. It's not general speakers list. It's moderated caucus. You're going to have to talk specific. We're talking about details. We're talking about things that are super, super, super specific. So if your topic is human rights, and then the moderated caucus is on now, then you're gonna have to propose topics that are subtopic of human rights. For example, you want to talk about human rights violation, or you want to talk about the laws or regulations of the human rights itself, you're gonna have to talk specific. Okay, so to make the debate more organized, you have to talk about a specific topic, but it has to pass. Okay, so we cannot entertain, we cannot accept any kind of topic. We're gonna have to vote which topic is the one that is relevant to talk to be talked about by the delegates. How do you pass that? You have to have a 50% plus one vote. For example, in the Zoom right now, there are 18 people, including myself. If I'm proposing a topic in moderated caucus, for the topic to pass, I'm gonna have 50% plus one votes. If there are a total of 18, then the 50% plus one will be 10. I will have I would have to have the minimum of 10 delegates saying yes to my topic for my topic to pass. If my topic only gains 9 votes, if another topic is really good, then the topic will not pass, and then the chair will decide to vote on the next topic. Someone is saying, okay, I'm proposing this. It's not actually really relevant. But if someone or the whole session is voting, the whole delegates who are voting, there are more than 10 delegates, then the topic will pass. So we're not talking about substantial decision here. The chair will not decide whether a topic is good, whether a topic is bad. They will decide whether a topic will pass based on the number of votes. Okay, this is called majority vote. Okay, it's called majority vote because it's more than the majority, 50% plus one. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is how you propose the time. If you're representing France and then you're chosen to speak in a moderated caucus, and you can propose it by saying the statement. Delegate of France would like to propose a moderated caucus for 10 minutes total time and 1 minute speaking time each. So what is this? There are 10 minutes, there are 1 minute. How many minutes do you want? So this is where you propose the number of delegates that can speak. So if the total time is 1 minute, 10 minutes, if the total time is 10 minutes, and France saying that the speaking time would only be 1 minute, then how many delegates can speak in that caucus? Can anyone answer? I hope you guys graduated from elementary school.
10.
Okay, right, 10, because I have a hard time calculating it. Yes, so it's the total time divided by the speaking time. Kabdur, can we say 20 minutes, 2 minutes speaking time? Yes, you can propose a 20-minute total speaking time with 2 minutes speaking time, which means there are, again, only 10 delegates. But this time, each delegate can speak for 2 minutes. Okay, so that's the difference. So it's super understandable. And also there will be limits. There will be limits. Sometimes chair will only limit the maximum time to 20 minutes. You cannot go for 30. You cannot go for 25. The maximum will be 20 minutes. But the speaking time can be something that you can choose the way you want it. For example, you want 20 minutes total speaking time with 10 minutes speaking time each. That means there will be only two delegates speaking, each for 10 minutes. It's possible, but only if the chair agrees, right? Because chair can disagree with you even if the procedure is right. Okay, it's called discretion. They can do anything they want basically, or only in the most rational way possible, definitely. So moderate caucus, again, it's the same thing. It should be simple. It should be easy to understand, and you're gonna have to give a speech based on the related motion. If the motion is talking about human rights, then don't talk about social economic issues. Okay, if the topic is talking about, or the motion is talking about COVID-19 vaccine, then you're gonna have to talk about COVID-19 vaccine and not flu vaccine or TBC vaccine. You have to be on the same motion. What you cannot do is to jump agenda. So what is jumping agenda? Jumping agenda basically means that when an agenda is already set, you decide to move it to another agenda when the voting is already happening. You cannot do that. You cannot also propose a redundant motion. If you're already proposing problems identification, for example, you cannot propose it again in the next motion since it is already talked about. The last thing that you cannot do is to give a speech not based on a related motion. Okay, so do's and don'ts number 3, basically the same. They just add not. Okay, basically you have to talk the same topic. Okay, we still have some time. So unmoderated caucus. Again, my tips. If you want to understand a term that you haven't heard of, just look at the words. The previous one is moderated. This one is unmoderated. So what does it mean? It means that nobody is going to regulate you. Nobody's going to say or tell you what to do. You can talk anything, anyhow you want. In offline MUN conferences, you can visit delegates. You can move from your chair. You can even go to the stage, talk about something with other delegates. But in a formal Zoom meeting, it's not possible because you have to stay on the Zoom, right? You cannot meet each other. But in an offline MUN, you can do anything you want. The only moderated thing in unmoderated caucus will only be the time. The chair, for example. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 20 minutes. Just go with your unmoderated caucus. You can do anything you want. You can talk, you can write, you can type, you can even print some papers if you want to. For 20 minutes, you can do whatever you want. But after 20 minutes, you're gonna have to move back to your chair. Okay, so in an unmoderated caucus, that's the difference. It's only limited by time. You can talk about anything. In moderated caucus, though, you're gonna have to talk only on the topic that is being discussed. As I have explained earlier, if we're talking about a motion on human rights, then you're gonna have to talk about a motion on human rights. But in Unmoderated Caucus, nobody is going to tell you what to do. I don't want to talk human rights, even though you guys are talking about human rights. I don't want to do it. And the judge would say, yeah, he can do it. He can say whatever he wants because it's Unmoderated Caucus. Okay. I hope it's easy to understand. We're going to have to move on to the next one. How do you say it? How do you propose to the chair? You just say, Delegate of France would like to propose unmoderated caucus for 20 minutes or 15 or 10, any minutes you want, as long as the chair agrees on it. So again, perhaps some of you might be curious, why will anyone say Delegate of Mauritius would like to propose instead of I would like to propose or we would like to propose? The answer will be the fact that you're not representing yourself. Okay, you're representing a country. So you're gonna have to be specific because in an MUN meeting or in a real UN meeting, nobody really knows each other's name. Who are you? Why are you just saying stuff? I don't know where you come from. That's why you're gonna have to talk about what country you are. If you're a delegate of Indonesia, then say delegate of Indonesia would like to propose this, would like to propose that. You cannot just say I would like to propose this or that. Who are you? We don't know who you are. What country are you representing? You're gonna have to use the delegate of your country in every speech that you give in front of the chair. Okay, but if it is not in front of the chair, for example, if this photo that you see on my left or right, I don't know. Okay, you don't have to say, oh, okay, delegate of Indonesia is trying to say this and that. You just can say I, you, we, they. This is super possible, but only if it is in unmoderated caucus. Okay, I hope it's understandable. Again, I think it's the same. You don't have to be too dominant because nobody really cares when you talk so much, but you have to listen to others definitely. Because as someone that represents a country, you're gonna have to have manners, right? You have to be diplomatic, you have to be someone that listens to others, and you have to try to create a block. So what is block? Okay. So in an MUN, your performance will be assessed by how good you are in creating a bloc. So what is a bloc? Bloc is a group of countries who share a same interest. Okay, they share the same interest because they agree on something together. Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei Darussalam, and then Cambodia, Singapore, Thailand, the countries of Southeast Asia, basically. These countries have the same opinion when it comes to the case of South China Sea, for example. They think that China is doing too much and we cannot accept that. Then as the 10 countries, the ASEAN countries, you can create a bloc which whose members are the countries of Southeast Asian territory, trying to trying to offend not trying to offend, trying to counter argument made by China, counter argument proposals made by China. Okay, you can form a block. But what if you form a block that does not share the same interest? You can still do it, but I would not promise that you will have a good assessment from the chair. Okay, so only share the same interest, the same policy when you're creating a block. Okay, we still have 10 minutes. Tips for speech: grab attention, structured well, clear, and on point. So I think this is something that not only that you have to master it in an MUN, but also I think it's on any kind of setting. Okay, when you're talking to your parents, when you're talking to your boss, when you're talking to your lecturers, or when your lecturer suddenly chooses you in a Zoom class, you're gonna have to grab attention, structure your speech well, and clear and on point. Because why? Because not everyone has the same level of attention. For example, those of you who are listening to me right now, perhaps some of you might be confused on what I'm saying now, and some of you might still be understanding everything that I said from the first minute we started the Zoom. Everyone has their own ability, and that's normal. Okay, you cannot force yourself to have, oh, I want to have the same level of understanding ability like this my friend of mine. You cannot do that. It takes process, right? Since everyone does not have the same level of attention, then you're gonna have to grab their attention. You're gonna have to grab it for them to give their attention to you. Okay. The second thing is structured. Well, basically it's opening, and then the body, and also the closing. You cannot close first and then open later. It's not how it works. Okay. And you're gonna have to be clear and on point. Don't talk too much. Again, as I said before, nobody really cares what you say unless it matters to the delegates. So be clear and be on point. Okay, guys, these are the last. Again, formal suit, use third person, never use I, me, and my. And then research, if you want to have the best experience of MUN. If you're just trying to participate and then do nothing, well, I cannot force you to do anything that you think is the best. But if you already pay for an MUN conference, I would really, really recommend all of you to use your money right and research, because it's fun, right? It's fun to know whether other delegates are saying true stuff or not, because some delegates are bluffing. They say facts. This data shows 98% of people agree on this, when you know for a fact that not everyone agrees on that topic. Okay, so if you research, it's going to be super, super fun. Be diplomatic, definitely. Speak up, always prepare, definitely. Respect the chair as the chair respects you. Again, it's all about having manners. You're gonna have to have all of these. The don'ts. Don't wear casual t-shirts. Don't go to an MUN wearing shirts that I'm currently wearing right now. It's not it's not how it goes, because you're representing a country and you're not wearing a shirt, because we're not going to Nongkrong. We're going to have a simulation of a UN meeting. Okay. So never wear a casual t-shirt. Talk without chair permission. Never talk without chair permission, because that would not be considered as respectful. Don't be late or sleep. Definitely do not sleep. I would highly recommend for all of you to wake up when the time is on, and don't panic, because well, it's online, first of all, so it's not going to be that nervous. And then second of all, take it easy. Don't forget to have fun, because you pay your money and then you're gonna have fun, but at the same time you want to learn. So if you can combine all of that, it's going to be the best experience that you'll ever get. Tips for research. Know the mandate. Again, as I have mentioned, you have to know the mandate. If you don't, then all of your solutions, that will be useless. Okay. If you're proposing the United Nations to give funding to each country $1 trillion, then you're bluffing. Okay. Know the mandate, know the role, never create solutions that are out of touch. And then know the background topic, understand the framework, and also understand your country stance. Definitely, as Indonesia, you're gonna have to promote Pancasila, right? You're gonna have to promote Gotong Royong. Okay, don't promote ideologies that are not Indonesia. The last one is number 5, possible solution. So never go for a solution that is so good it's not possible. For example, we want to end poverty, right? We want to make sure that economy is as accessible as possible, and we want to do it by erasing tax. And then the other delegates will go, "What? How would you do that when you're erasing taxes? I mean, where would your country's funding coming from if you're erasing your taxes?" Because this delegate that proposes tax eradication thinks that by erasing tax, you're giving easy situations to a lot of people, which economically speaking, even though I'm not from economics, it's not how it goes, right? You're gonna have to have a possible solution. Okay, this is the last one. Homework. Okay, so I'm so sorry. There will be homeworks, but it will be voluntary. Don't worry if you don't want to do it. Super fine, because it's not that it's not a homework that you have to submit, but it is a homework that we will discuss next week or in the next session. So you're gonna have to start your own research in your own topic, any topic that you want: human rights, wars, or artificial intelligence, industrial revolution, big data, anything that you want to talk about. Start the research. Okay, and you're gonna have to represent your country's opinion. Okay, so choose your country, any country. For example, Indonesia. You want to research about Tesla. Tesla cars coming to Indonesia. Is it a good idea? Is it going to give bad effects to our local companies, local car companies? And then you can research it. How do you do it? It can be an essay, it can be a list, it can be a bullet points that you make in a WhatsApp chat. Super fine. I don't mind. The more detailed, the better. I would say as long as you're doing it right, I don't care the form of your assignment. So anything, anyhow you want to do it, make sure that it is detailed and I can understand what you're saying. Okay. I don't really give a damn if you make a 10-page essay, but I cannot understand what you're talking about. I would rather be, I would agree with you 100% more if you only make a 1-page essay, but it's simple, it's easy to understand, and it's clear. Okay. Again, nobody really cares what you really have to say unless it matters to other people. That's really important. Okay. So make sure you have that in your assignment. It's voluntary. If you don't have time to do it, super fine. You can just listen from others' assignment, because we're going to discuss only several assignments that I think is suitable to discuss. Okay, so we will be having a 7-minute remaining. If any of you wants to ask anything, please do, because this is the time, and I will end the share screen now. Okay, anyone wants to ask me a question? Indonesia, English, I don't really care. Nanya aja, and we'll talk about MUN here. Okay. Anyone has a question, feel free to ask me or unmute.
Iya Kak Abdur, mungkin mau tanya dikit.
Boleh.
Kan nanti pas ada beberapa dari kita sini kan yang ikut kelas ini dan nanti akan ikut MUN juga ya Kak. And then there's this thing called position paper as you said before.
Yeah.
Itu kira-kira kita dikasih waktu berapa lama ya Kak untuk persiapan to create our position paper?
Oke, thank you so much.
Itu aja.
Oke, makasih Adi pertanyaan. Jadi ini Indonesia aja ya, panitia, sorry kalau gue Indonesia. Jadi buat position paper itu biasanya ya, itu 3 bulan, hamin 3 bulan, 3 months before the conference. Tapi ada juga MUN yang 5 bulan sebelum conference mulai, position papernya itu udah di open for submission. Jadi kalian udah bisa ngumpulin dari saat itu juga, ntar dikasih deadline itu nanti gitu. I would suggest jangan dibuat deadline. Kenapa? Karena ya gue pernah bikin, bukan pernah lagi, gue sering banget bikin position paper hamin 2 jam 3 jam, itu jadinya lu makin pusing sih. Kenapa gue bilang gitu? Karena position paper tuh bakal bantu lo sendiri. Kalau lu nggak punya, lu bakal susah nanti pas conference. Apa yang pengen lo pegang nanti lu nggak tahu. Jangan sampai lu bikin position paper asal-asalan, terus pas lu perform di sessionnya nanti, stance lu beda gitu. Lu position paper ngomong A, lu malah pas debat ngomong B. Itu udah it's minus gitu di mata chair. Jadi pastikan kalian udah punya position paper. So regarding the time, itu tergantung dari committee, dari panitianya, penyelenggaranya. Tapi normalnya itu hamin 3 bulan dan dikumpulnya biasanya hamin seminggu sebelum conference. Meskipun nggak menutup kemungkinan, kadang dikasih dispensasi juga. Misalkan kalian lagi ada apa, terus komitinya bilang, oh ya udah kirim aja Kak besok. It's very possible. Ada kok situation kayak gitu. Gitu sih, semoga menjawab.
Oke, baik, makasih Kak.
Oke, sure thing. Anyone ada yang mau nanya lagi? Boleh di chat juga boleh. Because we still have 5 minutes. Kita masih ada 3 session lagi. 3 sessionnya itu nanti bahas, ini kan MUN 101 ya. Itu minggu depan. Gue lupa urutannya, tapi kita bakal bahas position paper, draft resolution, sama nanti ada simulasi kecil-kecilan. Jadi gue bakal ngajarin kalian, kayak tadi misalkan template ngomongnya gimana, how do you propose a motion, how do you propose a voting procedure session, dan sebagainya. Itu bakal diobrolin di beberapa session sebelumnya. Oke, if anyone wants to ask a question, feel free. Kalaupun nggak ada, bisa di chat gue aja, baik pribadi ataupun di grup. Bakal gue jawab kalau gue lagi free. Dan nanya apa aja terkait MUN boleh banget. Kalau mau nanya tugas juga boleh. Oke, I hope pada ngerti, pada understand. Karena menurut gue emang agak banyak sih istilahnya. Tapi di pelajaran kecil-kecilan aja. The committee just said to me earlier that kalian udah lumayan familiar with MUN. That's good. Kita bakal bangun fondasi yang lebih baik lagi. Dan di next session, bakal super technical sih. Kita bakal super technical. Di batch sebelumnya, gue mentor juga. Di kelas gue itu udah bahas bahkan sampai cara bikin kalimat position papernya, bahkan sampai kalimat driver solutionnya. Jadi nggak tips-tips kayak tadi, nggak. Jadi bakal super technical. Gue harap sih kalian dapat sesuatu lah ikut MUN School dari GM MUN. Oke. Kalau misalkan nggak ada lagi yang mau nanya, gue mau ngucapin terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate and respect your attendance here. Semoga kita ketemu lagi nanti dan juga bisa bahas tentang position paper. Untuk recording bakal gue upload setelah selesai di-download dan nanti gue upload juga materinya. Oke, thank you everyone. See you in the next session dan have a good rest. Dadah. Thank you
Bye, masih
semuanya.
banyak.
Yuk.